Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll call this meeting of Sunny County Commission to order for August 5th, second meeting today, 7 o'clock. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's take one moment here. Say a little prayer. Heavenly Father, we ask for your intervention in tonight's meeting. We ask that you give us wisdom to do what's in the best interest of those folks we serve. We ask in a special way that you look over all those protecting our freedoms and our families. We ask all this through your Son. Amen. Okay, let's begin with roll call, please.
Mr. Kirschner.
Here.
Commissioner Cardozo.
Here.
Mr. Shuff was absent.
Okay, so the format of the meeting, do we have agendas for the folks out there? Right? No. Just to let you know, the format of the meeting is we have a PowerPoint presentation that should take somewhere less than half an hour. We are then going to open it up for discussions here, joint EMS district members, board members, and then open it up for general discussion. So we will begin with your permission with the slide presentation that we worked on here the past few weeks. It's great to have everybody together. It's great to see everybody's face. It's great to watch everybody's body language. Hopefully this will be a positive meeting. The results will be positive. We are going to call it as it is. Hopefully everything that you see up here is based on fact. We'll give you what we believe as commissioners is our working towards a resolution for a county-wide joint EMS service. So without further ado, let us begin. We thought the best place to start with what is it? Everybody silence their phones today. That could be more important than us. So I thought what we'd try to start with, and Commissioner Burris and I will trade slides here as we go along. What are the items that we can all agree on? It's a great place to start. Sometimes I didn't know that we could come up with 6, but we did. Hopefully we do agree with these. The first one is that we are all here to provide citizens of Sunny County with a professional EMS service at the most reasonable cost. This was kind of our mission statement. We respond to all 911 EMS calls for service within 10 minutes and all districts covered by Sunny County EMS. I don't know that we can dispute that. I don't know if there's anything in that that anybody disagrees with. Volunteerism is on the decline. In 2014, we had 140 volunteers. In 2021, we had 75 volunteers, with 54 going on at least 2 runs. We don't currently have the financial resources for a full-time 4-squad or 3-squad system. Talk about that. Each EMS district is in a different position. Dollars they have in reserve, the dollars they have coming in, the number of volunteers, the number of active volunteers, call volume, and the population. Everyone is in a different circumstance. Each of us sincerely want to find a solution and eliminate as much drama from that solution as possible. I would ask if we have alignment on these, is there any of these statements that anybody wants to say is just not accurate? So we begin by saying, this is what we all have in common. If we take it from this point, we can go forward with trying to find solutions to be the world we need to be. Mr. Barry, so let me know.
Can you hear me okay?
All right, I'll use that. So the EMS districts, by the way, represented here are the now 4 formal EMS districts in the county. We had 5, ABR merged with Bloom Scipio, so we have 4 formal districts. Adams, Pleasant, and Green Springs are represented. They are not a district, but they work together to the north of the county. They're very interested in coming in and being part of what we're talking about. We also invited Eden Township. They're here. We invited Thompson Township to be part of the discussion and just have a seat at the table. Eden and Thompson have EMS service. They're happy with it, but they are interested in learning more about what the county's doing, so we invited them. That's who's at this table. So if we combine, if we take the 4 current districts, we have about $1.2 million in the bank between the EMS districts. That's no one's money but EMS's money. If we add, according to the auditor, the revenue of the 4 districts, we have approximately $829,000. Green Springs, Adams, and Pleasant are $322,000. Let's just call it $1 million. So as we sit here, we already have a tax levy. We already are collecting money through EMS districts at around $1 million plus a year, and we have $1.2 million in the bank. That's what the districts have. The county has American Rescue money. We have a chunk of money sitting there, and the township trustees now have money that may or may not be on the table to discuss. The county has a joint district. We have contracts. It's the same contract with everybody. We all have invested significant dollars in the system, and the out-of-service times have generally increased as we face these obstacles.
Okay, I want to put one, I just want to run back to the other slide one time.
Thank you.
We do need to, again, thank the volunteers. We can't forget whose shoulders on which we are standing. We are standing on the shoulders of a number of volunteers. And we thank them from the bottom of our heart for that. However, as you saw earlier, that number is diminishing and diminishing. So we need to seriously look at increases. So Tony talked briefly about, where we are with carryover and where we are with total revenue. The 829 is what we refer to as on the bottom right there as $1 million. $1 million if we include our friends in the Northeast. And we do combine that $1.2 million in reserve. So I just wanted to make sure everybody saw those figures and could absorb those figures, so we can do the basis from which we are starting. Yeah, we have about $1 million in revenue if we include Northeast stuff, and we have $1.2 million.
This slide just depicts the growth in reserves. So we're not exactly sure why this is happening, but over the last 4 years, this is the combined reserves, and the graphs illustrate that it continues to go up. So I'll leave it at that. We can look into that a couple different ways, but the point is there's more money in reserves this year than there was last year, the year before, and the year before. Next slide. So we talked about what EMS is putting in. The county, the commissioners, out of the general fund, this is the dollars that have been in our budget over the last 4 years. So the county commissioners, in addition to what the districts are doing, we are spending $600,000 to $800,000 a year on EMS. And we're just making that known. In addition to this, we have this extra pot of money that's available. So that's illustrates the last 4 years. Auditor Atkins is not here, but these numbers came from her office. She's on the phone, so does anybody have any questions about the numbers? Julie's on the phone. If anyone wants to ask any questions there. Thanks, Julie. I'm sorry I missed you.
Julie, do you have anything you'd like to add?
That's okay, Tony. I was having trouble connecting. I got a new tablet, but I'm in. So is there anything I can help with?
Just, we went over the numbers, Julie, and asked for any questions. Didn't know if there was anything you wanted to add to the conversation. We went over the revenue for the year, for the past 2 years, and also an older period.
Right. Yeah, I can forward that out to the entities if they like. If they would like that information, just please let me know. Or if there's any other scenarios you'd like me to run.
Okay, thank you.
So each district is free to contact you with those questions.
Yes.
Okay, everybody good?
Okay, so this is kind of a back to basic slide too, just as a reminder, bring everybody back to where we are. The county, what does it do? Well, the funds provides the medical director, the administration, the ambulances, the communications equipment, medical equipment, and supplies and training. That's what the county has agreed to fund. We also handle billing, collections, and data reporting. What the ambulance districts contractually have been asked to do is, to the best of their ability, a 2-person certified crew 24 hours a day with necessary backup and support personnel with adequate facilities to house a 2-person crew if applicable. This is from years ago. This isn't anything new. This is what the agreement has been between the commissioners and the ambulance districts since the beginning. So again, the county funds all the equipment, all the medicine, all the administration, medical director, et cetera, and the joint ambulance districts provide personnel. Take care of it.
That's good. Any questions so far? Jim?
That total amount the county is spending, how much of that is billed out, brought in? Billing.
Is that about 300. So of the county's portion, about 300,000 of that is run revenue. Good question. Okay, anything else? Okay, this slide shows the out of service numbers from 2020 to 2021. We've talked about this before, but we want to just say it again, that volunteers are declining, and these are numbers we published before, 140 in 2014, 75 in 2021, with 54 going on at least 2 runs. And only 37 of these volunteers average more than 1 run per month. So it's a small group, dedicated group that we really rely on. The out of service figures may be a little misleading due to EMRs. We know when we have a prosecutor here, when we hired the 4 people, it was determined that EMRs could not be part of the right out on the squads. So these numbers will have to need a little longer data trend to really track the out of service. But we want to note that will affect things. We know the cost of 2 volunteer position is $350 an hour. It's about $61,000 a year per district. And the numbers are getting worse in 2021. And I just talked about House Bill 444 kind of being negated there. Any questions about this? We also have Ken here if anybody has a question for him. So we have the prosecutor, the auditor, and Ken if we need to get any statistics or any big questions to answer.
Tony, if you could
Yes.
maybe have Derek explain a 444 House bill with all that entails there a little bit, just a thumbnail of what the changes are with that.
Okay, want to do that?
Or-
Yeah, well, and actually, I'm the one here, but Eleanor Anderson, my office, has been the one who's dealt with it. She did research at request and gave the opinion, but basically, it's, you can't use the volunteers we have in the past because we now have the employees who are working more hours, so no longer a volunteer organization as an entity throughout the county.
Has anybody ever checked into the possibility of raising that 350 up higher so we get more volunteers? I know it's a law you can or something.
Well, that is, the difficulty is we're way below minimum wage. It is a, what's the word I'm looking for the nominal. It's a nominal payment. And the closer you start making it look like wages, the less it looks like nominal. And then you need to, if you're gonna be paying wages, you got minimum wage, all the other rules kick in. So could you go 4? Sure.
Could you
8?
go to
No.
8 or 10 instead of paying 25 for a license?
Well, if you're gonna get to 8 or 10, you need to get the minimum wage and comply with
So that's a federal law or state law.
both. Yes.
So it's pretty hard to get changed forever.
Yeah, well, and the problem is it's all judgment. It's all guess, and you're not in trouble until you're all the way down to the bottom of the pit. And you can't do it. Because if you get a complaint and then you're dealing with the federal government or the state government on minimum wage, and they're going back and they're taking all these people and they're saying, you should have been paying minimum wage. You're paying $5 an hour. That's not nominal. That's too close to being real wages. Again, I feel very comfortable with 350. If you want 4, sure. If you're going 8, I think you're
So there's no
You're dancing,
there's no
you're
set rule on how much.
The best example for that was Seneca Rehabs, right? And everybody knows that story. They were doing a lot of work for Roby Rubber. And they were paying them a nominal fee. Determined that they had to make at least minimum wage. And the settlement was $multi-million.
Probably get into overtime.
And the litigation for READS went on for
Years.
years. And in the end, it did help the people who were participants in the program. In my opinion, it didn't help the program. It benefited the lawyers who really cashed in on those people. So,
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, certainly we would like to get by for less. It doesn't look like that's possible. Okay, so next slide. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I have a little bit of clarification if you would like to understand on the volunteer level. Actually, Derek and I spoke on this at some point. Basically, long story short, for those that are wondering, it's 20%. Volunteer can make 20% of what a paid person in that same type of profession would make. So that is what, after you get above that, you're putting yourself into a danger zone. Now, you have to also keep in mind that you can't use the New York City firefighter for a basis. You have to use what's in this area. So just keep that in mind if you're looking into the potential on any type of a situation. If it's EMS, if it's fire, whatever that is, it's 20% of what that person would make as a paid employee.
I just peeked back at Ken where we at, he's like $16 an hour would be 20% of that's $320. You know, so we're not too far out of whack. If we went to 4, $20, 20% ratio, Chris, would keep us in that now. Yeah.
So as we take a deep breath and look at what we can do or what the situation is. We felt that we have an opportunity to do something special. And obviously, we all believe that we owe it to our citizens to do the best that we can. At this point, it may be a little early to say this, but at this point, I think the stars and the sun are kind of aligned. And by that I mean, we have some American Rescue Plan money that can very easily be used with a narrative to assist with EMS service throughout the county. We have 3 commissioners who are very much looking towards trying to do a countywide EMS system, 24/7 paid system. We have Senator Reinke, who's been made aware of this, who also very encouraging as to looking for some funding. And we also have the townships who now have some of the American Rescue Plan money that could be used. That would be determined on that conversation for the possibility of some EMS service. So I don't know that we're ever, at least in the near term, going to have an opportunity to do a countywide, full-time paid paramedic EMT situation anytime in the near future, as much as we're able to grab it at this point, know that we have some additional funding, know that we have the cooperation of elected officials, and know that we have some money coming in that is extraordinary. This doesn't happen in a generation that this kind of money is dumped on us, so to speak, to be used for such things. So that's where we're at. As you all know, some meetings have been a challenge, but we certainly are happy that everybody in the room, again, to read faces, to understand where it's coming from, to allow the exchange, to come together with a common interest and understand what we can do and what we can't do. This isn't, everything that we say is not palatable to everybody. Everybody has a different view of how things ought to be. We believe through Ken's work over the years, putting plans together that a 3 or 4 station system countywide is the best solution. Full time, 24/7, 365. Again, we said this 100 times, and we mean it. That the volunteers have held us together. They have been the fabric of the EMS system for years. But it is irrefutable that the volunteers are much fewer than they have been, and that decline continues. We will be able to continue to use volunteers, even in a 24/7, 365 system. Most of the districts will have 2 slots, or might need 2 slots. How many times we get the calls? A second call would be to be covered by volunteers. Hopefully, we will keep that staff going. Hopefully, we would burden them less, and maybe we would pick up more people, knowing that they're not going to be called on so often.
Questions, anybody? So we're now going to throw out some ideas that the commissioners have, okay? I've talked with many of you individually. I think the first 6-8 meetings we had by Zoom might have been 2 or 3 too many, but we needed to have them to brought us together. In all our meetings, we've come up with, let's just throw a plan out there so we can get some discussion going with it. Okay, you will see some slides down the road that I'll go back and make comments. So Jimmy, I'd like to talk to the slide instead of ahead of myself, if that's okay. But in addition to everything Commissioner Kirschner said, we do have the commissioners budgeting a nice chunk of money, and this year over $1 million. We do have over $1 million coming in the districts already. So this is not like the parks where they started a scratch levy and we already have a levy. We have money in the bank. We know what's working. We know some things that aren't working. And So now we're gonna put some ideas out. We're gonna go back, you'll see it in the slide in a minute, but I'll go through this, okay? A 4-squad model, 4 full-time squads are about 3.2 million a year. This includes the county's contribution, okay, to operate it. 3-squad model will be about 2.5 million. Simple English, it's about 600,000, maybe a little more to staff, 24/7, paid people, overtime benefits, a squad. Okay, we're not talking about the housing, the buildings, or, and then the county does what the county would continue to do. The district would provide the people, just like we're doing now. We would love to continue using volunteers. We'll save that discussion to a later meeting. Ken is, I've read 5 things where Ken has outlined that, okay? If we had one joint district without Tiffin, Fostoria, and Clinton, a 3 mil levy would generate $2.7 million. Okay, we're counting Dave, Eden, and Thompson, that would easily take you out, and that would be a number less than that. Okay, I'm trying to keep things simple. 2.7 million annually to the district with $1 million in the bank would fund the 4-squad model. I think we would have to do a financial performance, but it would be a 10-year or plus plan. You know, we want to overshoot it, so we don't have to go back to the voters. Any extra money would just stay in the district, right? So next slide. Okay, right now we have a system that relies heavily on volunteers. We know this. In the long term, we're trying to work towards a full-time system. And we have several strategies. So I'm going to kind of lay that out using existing resources that we have. We're going to try to lay that out. Go ahead, Jim. The slide I want's not coming out, so I'm getting it. Thank you. Things haven't been perfect. I think we can all agree to that. But nothing's perfect, right? And our future will be determined how well we come together and how well we work through this. We can't change the past, but we need everybody to make this work. The more people that are in, the more cost effective, the more everything works. Also, Steve Mayer said it best on our first meeting. Many of you have other options. Many of you are doing different things. But to bring it in the county to be part of a bigger system, we would control our own destiny long term. You're not going to worry about 2-3 years from now if whoever you're working with, that they're going to provide the service or it's going to raise the price or whatever. This is about a sustainable long-term plan in the county run by the county and the county EMS, new EMS board, okay? We must build off our previous successes. We have invested millions and will continue to invest more if we have good partners. The commissioner's position is, my position is, back to Mike's point about fatigue, if you only knew how committed the commissioners are to this. We talk, we bring it up every meeting, we argue, we're out talking to you, we want to help you, okay? I can't say that enough, but it's a two-way street. We have to be on the same page. It can't be our plan, it has to be our plan. So we have to think different. We don't like spending $1 million. We don't feel we went from 500 to 750 to $1.2 million, and we don't feel things are changing. And that's a lot of money. And you would think spending more money would make a difference, but it's not. Actually, if that's flat, we're on a slippery slope. I think we can all agree with that. We do a remarkable job with volunteers and what Ken and Danny and Echo and everybody's doing, but it's just not sustainable. So do we wait till it blows up and then have this meeting, or do we get out ahead of it? So the county is committed. We have been spending money. It's very well documented. You heard Commissioner Kirchner. We're committed to continuing to do that. Next slide. If I may, I'd like to comment on this, I'll give it to the commission. So we did some math. We have to go through the cost. And I'm close on numbers, but the population of Fostoria, Tiffin, and Clinton Township is over 30,000 people. There are 59,000 people based on the 2014-2019 census average in our county. So those two yellow squares, Dave, I split your township up, okay? Those two yellow squares are over half the people in the county. So if everybody else, and they're not coming in, they're not at the stable. 78% of the county, not counting Clinton and Adams, or Clinton and Thompson, represent 40, if you take, I'm sorry, let me back up. If you add Clinton and Thompson to the 51%, it's 57.5% of the people. So let's say Clinton, I say Clinton is not coming in, but if Eden and Thompson stay where they're at, that's 57% of the population that's not at this table. So the rest of us, 43% of the people in the county have 78% of the real estate to cover, with a lot less runs to help offset the cost, back to your point, Jim. So we have 10 volunteer fire departments in the county. We have 6 villages in the county represented here. The old days, the fire departments handled EMS, the villages had vehicles housed in the villages. But if we're going to cover this territory, and we're going to pay for it and provide first-class service, we need to think about 3 to 4 spots. We can't have that many spots, okay? So where we strategically place those spots will be determined by, in the end, how many of us decide we want to work together. Number 2, speaking of Ken, the shoot times were about 6.5 minutes before we put the 2 paid personnel in on both sides of the county. Those shoot times dropped to like 3.7. And in a paid system, the shoot times would be less than 2 minutes. Did I say that right? Okay, so strategically placed squads with quarters, 24-hour service, out the door in less than 2 minutes, that just increased what we're all on average used to by 4 minutes. 3 minutes, put a number in there, okay? That coupled with where we put them could really make a difference in maintaining the quality of care and the sustainability and affordability. We can't pay that 78%. Can't pay for 6 spots. So we're throwing out 3 to 4. We'll have that discussion later. Is it 3? Is it 4? What the village is, where they'll be. I'd like to stay in those conversations, but this gives you a visual of what we're up against.
Okay. So I want to hold that a little bit. Make no mistake about it. We are going to go to some type of a 1 district system. And it may just be 2 or 3 or 4 of the existing districts, or maybe everything. The best I can tell you is that we built the Justice Center, as everybody can remember. It was going to be built with or without Tiffin Municipal involved. When it came down to it, there was a lot of waffle about whether or not the city wanted to join. We made the decision that the building is going to be built. It's either going to be 2-story or 3-story, depending on whether or not they come along. So the point that I'm making here is that we are going to have countywide ambulance district. If it's, you know, it's simply the northeast or the southeast and the northern portions. So be it. It's the northwest, east, south. Whoever wants to come in, I think the time has come that we need to do what's best for those people that we represent. And we've concluded, our professional Ken has concluded, all three commissions have concluded that the way to resolve this problem is to use the money we have that has been, that is now excess, as carryover money. Use the money as much as we can from the American Rescue Plan, and use the money as much as we can from the township's portion of the rescue plan to build a strong foundation for this. And whether or not it ends up covering every inch of the county is up to you. We're going to do it. We could ask them to come along. We are not, as commissioners, statutorily obligated to do everything. But very clear, we have no responsibility as county commissioner to fund any portion of an ambulance service for the county. None. We think that it's necessary to have joint ambulance services. We think it's necessary to have countywide ambulance services. And we're willing and able to fund that because we believe that's in the best interest of those people that we represent. But we do not have an obligation to do it. So we had budgeted, as Tony had mentioned earlier, from 700,000 to 1.2 million. We hired 3 or 4 full-time people at this point. 4 full-time people. We hope we will be reimbursed for payment of their services by the districts in May and April. We haven't received a dime from any district or any full-time person that we have hired. Somebody is swallowing that at this point. We do expect that in some way, we talked about this earlier, the EMS Districts is going to generate about 829,000. It includes our friends up at the east, that will be about $1 million. And we know that there is in the accounts at this point in time about $1.2 million. Each thing that is pleasant, the township expects only about 322,000. Again, we looked at the milling, and it appears, you know, that we could do a 3 or 4 squad system, 3 or 4 district system for about 3 months. And that's about $100 for a $100,000 house, about $300 for a $100,000 house. So then I think we have up northeast, you guys have 2.5, no, 2.5 to 4. So we get increase there, but everybody has some knowledge. So the increase wouldn't be, it's a great pocketbook, but it's really, you know, it's a full-time professional service. We received about 10.7 million in the rescue plan, as you know, and we're going to apply as much of that as makes sense to start the foundation of the system, put buildings up wherever they need to be, to do whatever we're able to do under the limits of that rescue plan. In total, we're more than $1 million fund available that we need to use for EMS. We are not using it for EMS at this point. Because the main two carryover tells you that the money that is being collected from taxpayers for EMS services is not being fully utilized.
Yeah, and we're gonna, Jim, is there another slide or close?
This is the last one.
This is the last slide, and then this, we're gonna have some conversation, so. I just want to tie a few things together. Some millage, 3 spots, 4 spots are a lot of numbers. I've talked to several people that said, if we're gonna do it, let's go 4 spots. So just to be clear, 3 mills calculated by our auditor. Basically, we went to Julie and said, if everyone other than those 2 orange, city of Fostoria and Tiffin, went to 3 mil levy across the county, how much money did that raise? And it was over 2.7 million. Okay? 4 squads at 2.5 million. The county, we're committed to staying in, contributing the funds we are currently contributing. If it makes sense, we would talk something other than that, but we want to stay in and we'll have to work that out, okay? If we go 3 squad, if we go with 3 squads, it would be less millage, less money. Based on that map, depending on if everybody comes in, it makes life a lot easier. If a couple of districts aren't in, and we gotta jump districts and do some different things, we will figure it out, but we're gonna have to get a little creative, and we're all gonna, whoever's coming, we're gonna have to sit down and talk about it, okay? That's the first thing. In summary, this is the way I look at it. I've said this to many of you before. In addition to, there's already $1 million of revenue for EMS. There's $1.2 million in the bank. The commissioners are spending $700+ thousand a year. Commissioner Kirshner outlined all those other things where the stars are lined up. We're sitting pretty good. We can't have 10. We can't have 6. We have to have 3 or 4 spots. That's all we can afford to pay. And I've said this to many of you. I've talked to many realtors. If you're going to buy a house, one of the first things you ask is, what school district am I at? Do we all agree with that? Pick one in our county. I'm pretty proud of all of them. We could be in Senate, East, Old Fort, Old, it doesn't matter. Next question. They may ask, Chris, what fire district am I in? And this is a question for the public, everyone in the room. Has anyone ever asked, if I hit 911, where does the squad come from? Do you know anybody that's ever asked you that question? You know what? Because they just think an angel from heaven drops down, just like the movies. You got 911, and we do show up, by the way. We do show up, but they think you're gonna be there in no time, and you're out the door. So we have to do a good job of educating the public. I don't think we've done a good job of educating the public. Because if we are going to do this, it has to be this elected group who sits on the EMS district boards. Just like I have 2 commissioners, all you trustees have 2 trustees. The villages have a council of mayors. We have to educate ourselves. Then we have to go out and educate the taxpayers. This isn't about us wanting to raise taxes. That's the last thing any of us in here as electeds want to do. But if you want to hit 911 for the next 10 years, 24 hours a day, anywhere in the county, and know somebody's going to be there, this is what we need to do. Okay. Yes.
Can I have those numbers one more time? You said 3 bills would generate how much?
2.7 million.
2.5 million.
It's 7.
7 million. Little. As close as I know, a $100,000 house would be $300. Okay, it's time for the ambulance district numbers. Make some comments, ask reactions, ask questions.
Yes, for a plan, we have something that.
Steve, you said in that 3.2 million for 4 squads, is that figuring paying 350 for the volunteers? Or that didn't figure any of that?
It did. Ken said it.
It did? Okay.
Well, there's 4 full-time squads, and then we would have 2, at least 2 volunteer squads at the same time.
Where were they the hours?
That depends, and we are still trying to decide who's in, who's not, and that'll determine that. What I would like to see is 2 squads on the east and 2 squads on the west, and then a backup squad that would be run by volunteers on each side. So the still remaining 3 squads, but 4 of them would be taken. It's a little complex when we try talking about the ins and outs of it, but 4 full-time squads,
And we would retain that fund.
and that would stay.
So the plan that you're, the 3 or 4 EMS system you put up there, the cost also includes operating volunteers, full volunteers, volunteer squad, somewhere in district somewhere?
A lot less volunteers, sir, but yeah,
It would include the cost of volunteers. Yes, if there are fewer volunteers.
So for now, that's the path we're going. We would get into, we're gonna take it to the next step. Next, after we get a feel who's interested, who's not, whether it's 3 mills, more or less, we'll have to vet that out. Really crunch the numbers. As a general rule, Mayor, it's 600,000 to run a paid station, right? 24/7. It's $350 an hour for volunteers. We have a squad on each side of volunteers. We would pay them $350, and then we work that in.
But I guess what I'm trying to figure out though, so that's getting everyone in one district. For the volunteers, they don't come into the district. They just stay out. The county still funds what they're funding with them. But then we have the full time. I guess I'm trying to still figure out.
We have to work the legal structure of that out. But yeah, that's how it will work.
Yeah.
So basically the districts would be funding echo units.
Maybe the county
Four
would
active
fund,
ones.
maybe the county would fund volunteers or something. We'd have to, it's back to that tax question. We would have to work that out.
We don't have a delusion it's gonna happen next year.
Yeah.
We're not gonna drop the hammer and say tomorrow it's happening. I mean, I think what we're gonna have to do is have at least one data site, one of the current districts. Run it for a period of time to actually understand costs. And apply all the things that we're going to each of the stations. So we're probably gonna have to build 2 or 3 housing stations. To place them properly. So that's the run time for this issue.
Yeah, I think with me, like, we do come together as a one joint team managed by the county. I mean, I don't manage volunteers as well. When we have volunteer stations or whatever, I don't know how else we coordinate. Or we want that coordination on our boards. Unless we finance. It's going to have to come into
But you're talking about a joint ambulance district that includes all of the county except Tiffin, Astoria, and Clinton Township. So it would be the same, I mean, in theory, you could have each township,
We have a
each
board.
municipality can still have a representative. Your board might be a little unwieldy.
I would say four bucks hard. Yeah.
Yeah, but you could figure out a way to, have, 7 board members, 3 from the west, 3 from the east, and 1 from the north, 1 from the south. And rotate among those.
Eric, that question did come up to me personally. So if it's a separate district, yes. We have to work all this out.
Well, that would be the legal structure, would be to have go from multiple to go to 1. And you pick whichever ambulance district has the levy closest to, is there one that's close to 3 mils?
that'd be us 2.5.
2.5, yeah. Well, you're not a district.
That's true.
Yeah, so
Okay,
whichever
ours-
district has the highest millage would be the home district. And then they would invite the others to join, and then everybody would be taxed at that existing levy, even though none of the voters actually voted. But we did that with ABR joined Bloom City.
So we'll kind of push that.
You guys, I was there. Question is, we have the 3 that were ABR, Charles Miller, Mr. Eichholz, and Slav. You guys want to comment on how the merger went? from your end? Question was, did we have any pushback? On the merger from the citizens?
The only pushback I had was some of my citizens asked, how it was legal to jump into their tax bracket and not have it go to the polls.
That's a great question. And I was, when I saw that we could do it, I was a little bit surprised.
I might get a lot more pushback though if they go from what we are now to three.
But we probably have to go to the voters. Could we?
Well, and you could, again, there's nothing that says you can't go to voters. And I think if you have buy-in from 13 townships and all the villages, you know, it's a pretty easy sell to say, we can't get volunteers. You know, your mom was a volunteer, your dad, Bill was a volunteer. You're not a volunteer because you're busy. Your kids aren't volunteers. We have to go to a paid system. You want 911, you want a response within 6, 8, 10 minutes. And this is one way to do. So you want to wait, or you want somebody to be there when you get 911? And for me, it's a pretty easy. I mean, and you're talking, going up 2 mils to 3 mils. Again, it's taxes are going up, but it's not. You're getting something for it.
So if we end up with one board, so one district, that collects 3 mils, whatever it is. This is going to be handed over to the county. What would I do with it?
That entity would be its own legal entity, just like your joint ambulance district joint fire. It's its own legal entity that controls its own operations, and it would have. If I would suggest any contracts with the county would be in writing and.
Well, it's kind of the opposite of that, actually. We as the county would get you money.
So who would own the building?
Who's gonna pay for it? I mean,
We have this system for the bill, as far as I understand.
EMS Districts can own, the county could own, and charge $1 a year rent for hours or something. You know, we can work that out, and it's a good question.
When they talk about the reason, the overall reason for the conversation tonight is the fact that we have been asked on more than one occasion, multiple, maybe 100. Don't bring us a problem. Don't tell us what we have to do. Bring a solution to the table. This is our solution. It's not a take it or leave it situation. It is, we honestly believe, after a whole lot of deliberation and hours of consultation with our administration and with the commissioners, this is the direction we need to go. Keep putting the plan that we are going to have. If the county continues to contribute, we are going to have an ambulance system for the county. Hopefully, all the joint ambulance systems are out there now for them. But if they don't, then we are still going to have a countywide ambulance system that includes everyone who's going to participate.
I have a comment on the levy. Okay, so my vision would be, I'm one person, so practically it's your first time hearing it, commissioner's first time. We would not go to the voters unless we all agreed to go to the voters. We'd have to be unified. It would be, there are situations in this county where levies are put on the ballot that we kind of scratch our heads. Even the best levies that make the most sense are not automatically approved. Levies are levies, they're a tax. So I would think we would really get our heads on, we'd work out all these details. We'd all feel good about it. We'd go around all the schools, we'd have public meetings, and we'd put it on the ballot. And if it passes, we would do what ABR did. They merged in, then they dissolved ABR. So if it passes, we could merge everything in and dissolve them all and have a new one. If it doesn't pass, then we're back to where we are now. I think, could that happen? If we go for a ballot, it would be a new levy with a new district.
You have to form the district.
Okay.
To put it on the ballot.
Yeah. Does it have to be active, or can it just be a name only?
I never thought of an inactive district. I'll figure it out.
But these are things, I bet you if we were on the table, we get 10 of these what ifs, right?
People on one internet.
Also, pass that around if you can, when other people are speaking. Thank you.
And as far as APR, it was, they had a 1.5 mil levy, and they came into a 1.54 mil levy, which is $5.13 per 100,000 for everybody in their district. So that wasn't like 1-3. Also, Boom Scipio was a continuous levy, ours was a 5-year renewable levy. And we had zero opposition to that, Lynn, that was at the council meeting. And the answer is pretty much, do you think in 5 years we're gonna need EMS and that, you know, so they're basically sitting over there at 1.54 continuous levy. So that's how that happened. Any more questions go around like that? Steve?
Well, first off,
Jimmy,
I'll get a workout in.
Boy, you guys gonna be.
Hey, next time, let me know.
First off, I support what you guys are presenting to us. I think that this is the way we need to go. I do like the idea that we decide who's in before we decide how many stations we need and where they should be. A couple of questions I do have. Number one, when you said $3.2 million for 4 squads, is that the total cost of the squads, or is that what you're asking for the millage of the district to pay? I mean, with you guys putting in some of the money and then it's only 3.2, or is that what we have to come up with tax money for?
that's total cost.
Total costs. What, refresh my memory, what is it costing for EMTs, your EMTs per hour right now?
We have $14, $15, $16 an hour. Where those numbers are derived, Steve?
I mean your total costs. When you was talking about billing us, what was the total cost per hour?
36 hours, I'd say.
36.
That's overtime and everything baked in, right?
And also, as far as the levy goes, I would not, I think it has to be voted on. I would not feel comfortable asking our residents to go from a 1 mil levy to a 3 mil without permitting the city.
When you say you need 6, or say four housing new ones you're gonna build, could you go to the people that already have them built and pay rent on those instead of building new ones? Put that in towards-
It just depends on how many people come in and where they're located. And yeah, we would be more than willing to, if it makes sense geographically, yes.
Now, say you got 3 places, do you have to have actually 6 ambulances in for the volunteers? What are the volunteers gonna ride in?
No, actually, I think we're putting the cart before the horse and we're down in the weeds before we get the rain to make the weeds grow. So what I mean there is, if we've only got 6 townships doing it, we don't need 4 ambulances.
Well, per spot, let's say we have.
So if we
3 spots, if we have 3 buildings and spots.
If we have 3 buildings and just for conversation's sake, we say we put one on the east side, one on the west side, and one on the north. On the west side and the east side, we would have an additional squad at each of those 2 stations that could be staffed by volunteers once the paid crew goes out. So there would be 2, 4, 5 ambulances. Now, if we did have 6 and we wanted to invest that money and we had that money to invest, we could put a second ambulance in that northern station and staff it with volunteers or paid on call people. And I think those are the things we're gonna have to get to once we determine what the budget really is. Because we won't know that until we know who's in. And the reason for that is so that we have immediate backup
from the first new trucks to a second new or on-call staff. And that's where we can utilize volunteers or on-call paid staffing. And there's a lot of different legal terms that they use. They're really volunteers, but they're really on-call paid because they're on-call on a pager, but as soon as that pager drops, they're making money, they're getting paid. And that's an on-call paid system. There's a lot of them around here. One of them that pops into my head is Oregon, the city of Oregon, and the townships around it, like Jerusalem Township, things like that. So there's a lot of them that use that type of system. And in the plan that I wrote in 2014 and then the one in 20, it talks about that in a little more detail. The first one's a 9-page report. It was a little cumbersome, and after that, it got a little smaller. The one that was released last year, that has a lot more detail in it. If you're interested in reading that, we can make that. Did I answer your question, sir? Yep.
Currently, how many ambulances does the county have?
Currently, we
At work?
Yes. We have seven total.
Okay, more discussion, more questions.
Public comment, I think, have some action items. Okay, so, what's next? So, I think we're going to wrap up the formal part of the meeting. I think we're all going to walk out of here, now starting to think, talking to other members, other districts, other trustees. I think that's needed. The timing of this, whether it's 3 mills, 4 mills, who's in, who's out, we don't know that now. But what I'm asking is maybe 3 meetings, 90 days or so. At some point, you're going to know if you want to come and get serious in the discussion. And that's what we need to know. And hopefully it's the same group. If it's a smaller group, and that includes Thompson and Eaton, to at least think about it, Dave. I know you've got a separate scenario, we respect that, but we also want to know, we want you to at least have a seat at the table, okay? And then, at some point, if those 2 townships say we're happy where they're at, then that's fine. But I think we all would welcome them in the discussion, so I don't want to exclude them. And then after that, I think we just as a group, we involve Derek up front, and we'll have questions for Julie. And, maybe we start thinking, when do we do this? Tomorrow, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, what is it? Okay. But I think that's kind of the next step. Is there anybody that thinks we should do something other than that?
Are you gonna put a time limit when we should come up and say, hey, we're ready to come in?
Yeah,
think
I'd
we should
say
put a
90
time
days,
limit.
max 90 days. That's what I'm suggesting. Thank you. I thought if I didn't say that very clearly, I'm saying it now.
So 90 days, we have to decide each board if they're coming along or not. In the 90 days.
I mean, does anybody need more time than that?
Sooner the better.
Yeah, right. I mean, we know.
We
we've been
could just
talking.
stand down, on the road too many times, too long.
I'm going to hand the mic to Commissioner Kirschner, and he's going to elbow me and say we should have made it 30 days. So I'm not dug in on 90, but I'm throwing that out. You guys speak up. If you think that's a reasonable time, let's agree to it. If you think it's too long or not enough, let's bring that up. I'll turn it over to Commissioner Kirschner to tie that up. But I think once we know who's in, we can really start to have some discussions. Right? And in the meantime, we have these 2 people, east and west, we've got some kinks. But I think we're all in good faith and looking at Bascom and looking at Bloom Scipio AVR. I think the county made some mistakes and we got off to a bad start in Bloom Scipio. We got off to a bad start in Bascom. We all got together as boards, as electeds, as professionals. We basically all said to each other, we really need this to work. We screwed up. We're not gonna do that again. Ken, you would agree? We've learned. We're changing the way we orientation and introductions. We had a nice meeting with Bascom. I think some things came out. We had how many meetings with you guys where the county screwed up? We're trying. We're not perfect. Can't read your mind. We've never done this before, but we're proactive. We're sending them out. We instructed Ken to hire the 2 people. We had these discussions a long time ago. You know, and in fairness to the process, you asked, what's the cost? What's the cost? You know, and Ken hired them. So now we have them out there on our dime, but in good faith, we're talking to you. So, you know, I think in a period of time, we ought to work that out. And that would be a thing that would be in place until we could work a big picture out or something with agrees. The prosecutor will prepare an agreement that kind of ties that together.
So, you know, we started out by saying, what is it that we all have in common? I think we can agree to those things. What is it that we want to accomplish? And we all want to accomplish whatever is in the best interest of the people that we serve. We're trying to give a positive solution to the current situation. I don't know how else to do it other than to come up with a plan, take suggestions from professionals. We're so ahead, we went to a full-time paid system a couple of years ago. But the fact is, this is where it's at this point. There is no light at the end of the tunnel that says things are going to change to the point where we're not going to have to hire full-time people to cover the ambulances. There is no question that that's where we have to go. The question is, you know, do we want to wait until it actually blows up and nobody has it? Or do we want to do it at a time when we have elected officials who agree that it needs to happen, that we've got some money that's extra, and we have a number of ambulance districts who are willing to move forward with this. You know, if it doesn't get done now, I don't know when it's going to get done.
So Jim said, Tony, we're going to be an hour. You're up next. We're going to be an hour. Don't be mad at me. Mr. Miller.
What's our timer?
Okay, so I'm going to propose this, and you guys tell me, Adam, do you have a timeline?
Before you do that,
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been discussing this for how long? I know we can make a decision right now. I mean, if everybody else feels that way, we can make a decision now. We don't have to wait 90 days, 60 days, 30 days. If somebody needs more time, then let's talk about how much more time they need. I mean, I think that's the best way to do it. I think most of us could say right now whether or not we're ready.
Okay. See,
First off, I think this decision needs to go back to each township and village.
yeah, we have to talk about it.
Boards, is that correct?
Yeah, you have to go
So I
back.
can't sit here and represent Jackson
I
Township.
think.
I'm not saying that you say tonight, whether or not
Yes.
you're going to, but or do you need 60 days or can you do it within 30? And that's like, does somebody need more than 30?
I don't need that much time.
You need more than 30? And I'm only asking, I don't know. And
So
that's
here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have a meeting September 2nd, right here, same group, first Thursday of the month. I think everybody's gonna come, and at that meeting, we will take under advisement some of these questions, Mr. Prosecutor, and maybe some of the decision, if you're in or not, would be, maybe we could answer some of these questions. Right, take some of this 10,000-foot view and get it down a little bit. We can go around the room then and gauge the people. Maybe Bascom has some questions. Maybe Urigo has some questions, you know, that you're bringing back from your trustees and your villages or whatever. But the point is, Mayor, that's a good point. And I know these guys are hyped, but they don't want to kick the can down the road. We gotta move forward. You know, yeah.
One clarification, I guess, on this, and what we're saying we're in. I mean, we don't have an actual plan yet, and you said we're gonna work on that.
Well, you're in, we're in the plan.
So for you to say you're in, doesn't mean you're moving that way.
Ultimately, you want to be part of the plan.
You're saying, hey, we're very interested in being part of the plan, what's the plan? And once they tell us the plan, maybe you're not in it,
Correct.
So I think that's
We're
important.
not signing the legal document.
Right, that's why it's.
You're not contractually obligated yourself. You're just saying, we're very.
Right.
That's another, and I guess this is gonna be something that our prosecutor is going to have to figure out. Do we have can there be two districts in one entity? Or are we gonna have to dissolve ours before we even go for a village?
Like, the new entity will have to be formed to go for millage for everybody that's in the district.
So we're really burning our bridge at that point, because we'll say we're no longer JLB, we're now this Southern County Youth Joint Ambulance
I
District.
think what Commissioner Paradiso said was, maybe we could do, and I think, the more I think about it, I think it's possible, and I'll have an answer on September 2nd, is you could form the new district, go to your voters for the county-wide district. JBL still running, everybody's still running their normal procedure. If that levy passes, at that point, we dissolve your existing districts, go into the new
So
district.
technically, you're in two districts at one time. That's what I'm-
Yes, yes, and I don't know if that's a problem. I'll have an answer before then.
So there, if we would go to voters, and that would get voted down. I think it's wise to try to do it again, or are we just out?
Yeah, I'm not the guy to ask about.
Situations. Get that together. I mean, one piece of the puzzle falls out that it's really open.
I think if all the people in this room, you don't want Green Slate in down Eden Township knocking on doors. But I think if he's in his village saying, this is great for us, we're part of the system, you're in your town. I don't see how, I don't see an opposition. I don't see the Facebook like we've had for other levies that are just, I mean, that's just, they passed the resolution and public opinion is 80% opposed, from the get-go, and it's just negative slog the whole way. And I think when you're talking about, I think if you tell people, look, we went from this many volunteers, 7 years ago to this number today, when your mom gets 911, you want somebody there ASAP. You don't want to wait for somebody else to be coming out from another district, that have to go to their squad and come and take them. And I think it's an easier sell than some of the levies that are crashing.
So I think the big question is, do we have common ground and do we have some hope? The answer to that is yes. If it's not, I think that's a whole other conversation. This has been a lot of work, but the real work will begin when we try to put the districts together, work with Jared about it, and talk about how this is going to figure, because that's when everybody's into it. There's a lot of things we don't know. So, yeah, it's just
Yeah,
we'll be sure, if we should reach the video, probably tell you, please think about it.
What would you suggest we do next meeting? So it's not a waste of time.
Well, I think Mr. Greenslade here, we should come to next meeting pretty much knowing if your district's in or not. Then, like I said, we get the plan start rolling, and we got to speed the process up a bit.
And in fairness to everybody, that means, yeah, we're interested, let's keep talking. And so now we'll start putting dots and stations around, and then we'll start having these discussions. And I guess somebody could drop out, get down the road. It's just not working now. But I think I'm not against that, Commissioner. You're okay with something that.
If there's a group that's not interested in coming, just don't come to the meeting.
Yeah, we'll have some
Eliminate
people
the
all
crowd.
talking, all of us will be talking, right, between now and then. Fair. That's what.
And I'll try to send out a mail with information. Jim Crosswell's going
Okay, any other questions, comments?
We're good with that.
That's probably appropriate, the council have that. You guys good, Kevin?
Your power.
Anything else?
We'll send it out.
Send it out.
Yeah, have the right public comments, so anybody from the, yeah, Sheriff, would you like to say anything, anybody like to say anything at this point?
Oh, we have a podium, a mic, and speaking.
Yeah. Okay, so we need it.
Come on down.
Yeah,
Mr.
please,
Mack.
please state your name, you got 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Darren Mack, I'm from Newville, I'm one of the full-time operators, the only thing I want to say about I'm concerned about the September 2nd date, because that, I know NPS will have a meeting prior to that date. We're going to discuss it, so that's my only concern with the September 2nd date.
Appreciate that.
We can call special meetings.
Special meeting.
We can call special
Okay,
meeting.
the boards, they've agreed to call a special meeting in advance of that, so we can hold that date. Is that good?
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
Problem, solution. Yes. All right. We're adjourned. God bless.
Hour 15 minutes, but.
Next one,